Welcome to this latest TLH Group 1% Club Roundtable. You're very welcome. Today's session is slightly different to the previous ones that we run, where we tend to focus upon marginal gains. That's the whole purpose of the 1% Club, that you can embed within your career, within your business to help you stand out from the crowd. But today we're going to focus on a particular subject area that we feel will open up lots of opportunities for those of us who work in change and transformation over the coming months and years. It's around sustainability and the impact of the circular economy to organisations of all sizes across all countries of the world. So the session is being run by Chris Goss, a Transformation Leaders Hub member. For those of you who haven't come across the TLH previously, the Transformation Leaders Hub is a community exclusively for those who operate within change and transformation. I established it in the early stages of COVID to help people to come together, to share experiences, and ultimately to build relationships and create opportunities for each other. And back end of last year, we started to do these weekly roundtables as well. With that, I'm delighted to introduce Chris, who will take you through the session today.
Well done. So yes, this is a real Pandora's box. I'm deliberately being as brief as possible, basically to engage all the business transformation professionals here to show and demonstrate the urgency and to show a bit of glimmer of light of what's coming and where we should be getting involved. I think you've had the chance to read this first slide. The big thing is, I believe, if you're not able to support your customers in sustainability within the next 2 years, you won't have customers because everything will have an ESG or sustainability aspect to it. And that's where we come in, because that's where our experience is. So I'll introduce myself. My name's Chris Goss. I've got 30 years in business transformation, project program, and change initiatives globally. Let's kick off. So sustainability and circular economy. We're going to talk briefly about our current economy, which is linear. It's a linear economy. It has some problems. And then we will discuss briefly the circular economy. And we are already in the transition to a circular economy. Let me just, all of my notes are covered by nice pictures of people. So there we go. Hopefully that does it. And then what I'd like you all to think about as I move through the presentation is, what's the impact to your client, your present and past clients? And I'll ask some provocative questions as we go along, but you need to think about that. So the basic context is that the economy is global and it's a change agent, and it can have positive or negative outcomes. This is the linear economy. This is the economy that we all live in. It's a take, make, and waste economy. It's a linear straight line. It's based on two assumptions that are false. The first being that we have infinite resources, and the second is that the earth can regenerate at an infinite capacity all of our waste. So we're taking too much and we're dumping too much. And most of the waste, as you'll know, is either a burn or bury decision. Both of those create further pollution. Right. There are a series of significant problems with the linear economy, and you can see them here. And then you can see some of the catastrophic outcomes which are occurring. I'll leave you to read that briefly, but you're probably aware of a lot of it. Effectively, the linear economy is unsafe, it's unsustainable, it doesn't work, and how can we say? It's not the definition of success. So we're in this. Many companies have legacy linear structures, and we are also in the transformation to a circular economy. So let's have a look at a couple of the problems. The first being pollution. And the question is, why is that a problem? Effectively, human activity creates a lot of pollution, and currently we're putting 51, these are American tons, so you'll see different figures quoted, but I'm using American tons here. 51 billion tons of CO2 equivalent into the atmosphere every year. The Earth naturally draws down about 10 billion tons of this. So we've got an overproduction of pollution going into the atmosphere, and we've been doing that for some hundreds of years. So we can estimate that there's 2,400 billion tons in the atmosphere today. And if we take that 51 billion tons down to zero, which is what we're trying to do with achieving net zero, then, and that's over the next 28 years, then we will still put in a further 1,000 billion tons. So we're going to have a huge amount of pollution in the atmosphere. This is resulting in global warming and associated problems. So looking at warming projections, the black line is taking us up to 51 billion. And then the subsequent lines are different scenarios of where we're going to go to up to the end of the century. We achieved +1 degree in 2017. There is a forecast saying that we'll achieve +1.5 in the next 8 years, which will be in the mid 2020s. What we're looking at here is the green line is 1.5 degrees, and that's considered to be a manageable, I use it in inverted commas, safe limit. But as you can see from the top large blue brushstroke, that is where our current policies are taking us, to an increased global temperature average of 3 degrees, basically. Why does that matter? Well, let's have a look at the big picture. This is a graph that takes us or tracks the global temperature of the Earth for several hundred million years. What I'd like you to look at is the last 12,000. This is a flat line, effectively, and it's where human civilization was able to prosper, to farm, to grow, and where large civilizations and societies came out of, only in the last 12,000 years. We're now leaving this period, and you can see the projections of climate change here. So we're leaving the period, and this will happen in our lifetime, where we reach 2 to 3 degrees higher average global temperature. This hasn't happened for 3 million years. So we're leaving a period of stability. It's inevitable because we have so much pollution in the atmosphere, and we're entering a period of uncertainty. And the effects and impact of climate change will be more severe in some areas of the world rather than others. So it's unfairly distributed, and it's unfairly caused. Looking at the Earth as a global system, it has a number of aspects that we want to take care of, like the Arctic ice or the ocean conveyor belt, and all of these are impacted by global warming. Where we're approaching is we do not really know the tipping points of the Earth system, and we can basically say that physics and ecology will soon, if not already, set the agenda. It's not the economy, it's the environment we live in. So what is sustainability? Climate scientists have established this model. I don't know whether you've seen it before. It basically has 9 planetary boundaries, and we're expected to live within it in the green area. This is what the fuss is about, because basically, if this was your RAG report for your program, how would you feel that you've got 2.5 aspects in red, 1.5 that you haven't analyzed yet, and a further 2 that are in amber? And I've just been talking about climate change. That's in amber, but we pretty much know where it's going. So if this was your RAG report for your program or your transformation, what would you do about it? So the message is linear economy is unsustainable, and we're in trouble. Here, the good news is the ozone depletion was something that we did manage and we did bring back to green. So we're trying to, or people are trying to manage this and bring it back. This is just a highlight of very recent legal and regulatory changes, mainly focused on the EU and the UK. You can see 2019, the UK declared a climate change emergency. And then you can see some pretty radical and definite decisions from the European Union to become fully circular by 2050 and to reach net zero by 2050. The UK has also launched other requirements, and this is new laws and new regulations are coming in every few weeks. So it's not something you can stick your head in the sand about. It's really something that you'll be legally, and your clients will be legally obliged to apply. Let's have a look. Talking about the circular economy. This diagram really is a very clear explanation. Let's see. If you look at the circular economy, effectively, nothing goes into waste. So you can think of it as a forest where everything that dies in a forest becomes food to the system. So there is no waste. It's just regenerated into growth. And that's the objective with the circular economy, where we eliminate and design out waste and pollution. We circulate and keep materials and products in use. Circulating and keeping materials and products in use means moving to the shared economy, where consumers are not owning things, but they're sharing them, like car share or like ski equipment, or even, I should point out, Rolls-Royce have been having a leasing system for their engines for decades now. So it's not necessarily radically new, but it can change a business model and an operating plan. If you're using your waste as raw material, then you're reversing, or you're having a two-way supply chain. And then regenerating natural systems is just trying to bring the earth back into the manageable parameters. So I hope I've shown the urgency that we do have to move away and transform away from the linear economy. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, along with McKinsey, has highlighted that the circular economy is a tremendous financial and job opportunity, job creation opportunity. And the European Union has embraced it so much, basically because they see it as the future and a driver of competitiveness. I should point out, in China, because lots of people say, what about China, and pointing at China and this type of thing. So the circular economy has been part of their 5-year plan since 2006. So they've come on this in one way or another much earlier than some Western countries. A quick diversion. When do we apply circular economy? If this is 100% of all the greenhouse gases that are emitted, then about half of it is in making things and growing things. And I just want you to think about the making things, growing things, because we're going to go from that to the famous circular economy butterfly diagram. On the right is the technical cycle, which is making things. And on the left is the biological cycle, which is growing things. And as you look down the spine, you can kind of recognize the legacy of the linear economy. We take, make, use, and then dispose. The idea is that we eliminate waste and pollution. So the idea is that we recycle, repair, remanufacture on both sides. On the other side, we regenerate natural systems. And we minimize any landfill, any waste. How do we do this? Well, there's a real focus on design, because we'll have to redesign products from the beginning. How do we say 80% of a product's environmental impact is determined at the design stage? So there's a real focus on design, there's a real focus on innovation, not just on materials and products, also on operating models and business models. I'm sure most of you have seen new wow businesses being developed and being put out as circular economy businesses. Earlier on, the circular economy was very much into the era of which is all of this recycle repair. It's maturing into coupling that with design, and the era of D, as you can see there, is taking the materials and designing them better. Today, we wrap lettuce in a plastic bag, and that plastic bag can live for 10, 20 years. We only need it to live for for a couple of weeks, basically. So it's about appropriate design and designing for reducing and minimizing waste. I've put together a hypothetical client with a little bit of a SWOT, but basically generic statements to trigger your mind and your ideas. And I can say, one of the weaknesses will be complex, non-transparent legacy operations and systems, and having to report on that, having to measure and track and report on your carbon footprint. And I'll demonstrate this by showing what Tesco sent out to their suppliers last October. When you read through that, think, would you be able to support your clients through this demand from their supplier? And that's where we are, because as I saw this, I remembered in the 90s where I was working with Cable and Wireless, and they said to all suppliers, you have to connect with EDI, electronic data interchange. It seems archaic now, it's so long ago. But these mandates come down the supply chain, and they'll come thicker and faster. If I run on, then where do business transformation professionals and leaders fit into all of this? I believe this is the biggest and most urgent business transformation we will see in our professional lifetimes, which is really quite exciting. It will be both digital and green. We'll embrace digitalization in order to deliver green and circular economy business models. Currently, there's not enough experienced sustainability resource, and those resources there are really the new crew, and they're elevated in some cases to very high positions. This is where business transformation professionals can support them in embedding and delivering effective change throughout their organizations. Disruption's already well underway. Opportunities are there. The Next Generation EU fund is 750 billion euros. That's split between digital and green. And I believe that the experience that we will have from change and transformations is going to be invaluable. But we have to, collectively and individually, become more sustainability savvy in order to function well at this level. So be ready for extensive change. I've run through this, and I'm quite happy that it's only 18 minutes. So let me see how far we go. Where to go further? I'll share this presentation, but where to go further for more information? There's an excellent podcast by a well-known comedian in the UK, but it's a series of podcasts, and his two colleagues are futurists. So they really go through every topic you wish in detail and in a provocative and fun way. Then I think Tony sent you the climate game from the FT. That's certainly worth looking at to understand the gray area and the confusing results from seemingly obvious decisions. So it's much harder than we think it will be. Obviously, Ellen MacArthur is a great source of information. The Sustainable Development Goal Academy has great free learning resources, and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. The CEOs, I think, of the top 200 companies worldwide are part of that, and they've stated that capitalism must be reinvented. And
there's that TV program as well, isn't there? The Netflix program that you referred to the other day. That I did my homework, Chris.
Did you do it? Well done. So that's my presentation. I can go back to anything. I know it was fast. You can read it in your leisure. I'll open to the floor then, if you're happy with that, Tony.
No, thank you very much, Chris. That was really good. there's a couple of things that immediately sprung to mind from my perspective, and it'd be useful to get your thoughts on. The first one was that a lot of what we need to do, we've already done in the past, haven't we? It's almost moving back into the 60s and 70s, where we, if you think about, that those of you who are that old, will realise that back then we did reuse, we did recycle, we did repair. It wasn't this sort of like you buy a T-shirt and you wear it for 3 or 4 weeks and then you bin it off. It wasn't going to the supermarket to get a carton of milk. It was, the milkman from the local farm brought a milk bottle, and then a few days later took the milk bottle back. We know a lot. I think there's a lot of things out there that we've moved away from, that if we actually move back towards, we can start to change the results, I suppose. And that the TV program that Chris mentioned to me, the Netflix program with Richard Attenborough, that sort of diagram that Chris shared with the that he referred to in terms of the RAG report piece goes into it a lot more detail. It's definitely worth. I think it's just over an hour.
That's called Breaking Boundaries.
Yeah.
It's breaking boundaries, and it's
you've got to look at it, because if you just flick on something breaking, you get Breaking Bad, and that's a completely different program. So it'd be interesting just to open it up to the floor. In terms of the the work that you're doing at the moment, the clients that you're working with at the moment, the organisations you're working with, is this on their agenda? Is it something that they are interested in? Is it something that you're getting asked to contribute to? What's the view?
May I start with a couple of ideas from here?
Yes, brilliant. Yes, thanks, Manuel.
Sure. No, first of all, congratulations, Chris. The presentation, I think, was great, very insightful. So thank you. A couple of thoughts to discuss with you. On the cover, Chris, you were talking about net zero, or the net zero target. So I would wonder if at this point, let's say at this point of the journey, it would be better for us as an external consultants that we need to provide, leadership and vision. Instead of focusing on net zero, take the notion, the concept of net positive. Like that's more ambitious. We have to picking up this regeneration idea. The vision I should be proposing to my customers, I think that's my opinion, should be how to be rather than zero. Let's go one step further. Be positive. Be net positive. Just to put that on the table for discussion. And then second, and really quickly, because I know we're getting out of time. I think it was second to last Dapo. You were mentioning about our capabilities as change leaders and change management consultants, and I think that's really a key point in terms of our value selling proposition. My background is more technical with regards to sustainability, and in the past, when I've been given this responsibility in companies, I found that 60-80% of the job was about change management and changing the organization and the culture. And that's not something I was capable of. That was not something I was trained of. So the idea of having somebody, hand in hand, sitting close to me with the change management and leadership capabilities, that's a great selling proposition. And I would say a huge business opportunity for the people here. And I'll stop there. Thank you. No, thank you for the invitation, by the way.
I agree. I think I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and it's not necessarily our role to be able to come up with the answers or the ideas or the innovation, but what we have got is some great facilitation skills and the ability to facilitate those discussions and then translate those discussions into actions and deliver that transformation that's required. That's where we can contribute. Absolutely. Trian.
Sorry. It's okay. Go ahead, Neil.
No, after you. I talk too much anyway, so.
Thank you. So something that I wanted to, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. It's really interesting to be among you guys. I have a challenge that I would like to bring to this forum. As Tony and Chris were saying before, sustainability, recycling, repairing is nothing new. And I think that all of us in the organizations that we work for, we have seen these concepts going around for a long time now. I work in Michelin. One of the three strategic pillars of Michelin is planet. So we have in every initiative that we bring forward, in every project that we are running, we have to highlight how this project is going to help us be more sustainable, cleaner, greener. Now, a challenge that I have been seeing is that in order to promote those initiatives, any recycling initiatives, anything to have a positive impact on the environment costs money and resources and effort. So when push comes to shove, in the end, on many occasions, what we see is that we promote more profitable, more traditional linear economy, profitable initiatives that bring money to the companies, because anyway, we're out there to make money in the end. And those initiatives, win over in the comparison between green initiatives and more traditional initiatives that bring money automatically. Usually, we have seen from the presentation of Chris that we investing in the environment. We are also we are creating jobs. Eventually, it will bring money to the organization, but it's not that fast. And when it comes to making money faster, we see organizations going for the less green initiatives at the cost of not being very, sustainable. So, in my opinion, and I hope, I don't know if I'm the only one having seen this or other people have seen the same. I believe there are. It's a challenge. It's a constant challenge on how to position the sustainable initiatives versus the more, let's say, profit producing initiatives.
Priyan, could I answer?
Sure, absolutely.
Because I agree with you entirely, because a lot of companies do build in that throwaway culture. Things aren't built as sustainably and as robust. But one of the things that we have to push, and 99% by number anyway, of companies in the UK are small companies. So they're very cost conscious. And showing them that, yeah, there are revenue opportunities is great. But as you say, Trian, they may take some time. The one thing that we can talk to small companies about and medium-sized companies is the savings opportunities, costs, because if you teach them how to use less energy, changing to LED light bulbs, just simple things, looking at what they use and use less of it more efficiently, they are going to spend less money. So initially you can point them to cost savings rather than the revenue generating capability. And that, I think, for many businesses, that is a pain point. Cost is always a pain point. But the main thing for them is they see it as too big. This is massive and it has to change everything we do. So let's just stick with what we've got. So one of the key goals that we have to try and make small companies see is that break it down into simple, small steps and make them understand that they can do this and they can do it quite easily, but it's not something they have to do all in one go this year. It's an iterative process, but they just have to start with things like LED light bulb. It's very simple. It has a very quick payback and they can start to save money. And rather than try and push it as this great, big thing, and it will be great for them because they'll be generating new customers, just bring it down to the most simple and easy steps that they can make. Because they generate something like a third of greenhouse gases in the UK, the small companies, SMEs. So that's a big target, but they have to understand that they can do it.
Totally agree.
Which is about transformation is all about.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, isn't it? And you touched on it there, Neil, from a cultural perspective. but it's that multiple layer stuff, isn't it? It's
absolutely
culture across the whole country. It's the culture within the public of, we just want something new, we want something fresh, we want, and it's all of that, and I think certainly in our family, my youngest daughter is much more aware than my elder daughter, and there are 10 years difference around the issues of sustainability. So the eldest daughter would probably very easily go out and buy a new dress and wear it 2 or 3 times and throw it away. The youngest is much more aware of the impact of that, and I think that sort of cultural change dynamic is coming through from the younger population. So we need to engage with them and embrace them and bring them into these discussions, because they've got some really, really good ideas.
Chris, one of the things that it was a great presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting the slides because they were really good. One of the things you didn't touch on is the profit for purpose, which is the other, trying to get people to understand that profit now. And there are various legal things that are coming in, like the Companies Act is changing to, there was a green paper issued to update the Companies Act from in 2016-17 to say that they've got to now take into account the wider stakeholder community, which includes planet and community. And in terms of just basic accounting reporting, the new ISSB have introduced, just issued 2 exposure drafts. One of them is about climate change, and everyone thinks that the TCFD, which is the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, that's all the big companies listed and financial services. But the ISSB works for the IFRS, which is just general accounting disclosures, and they've issued exposure drafts on the reporting requirements for greenhouse gases, climate change, but also sustainability, which includes soil erosion, all of those sorts of things, biodiversity. So these changes will be coming in for all companies very soon as basic reporting requirements.
And I think that would drive some of that pain point, isn't it? The more pain, people move away from pain. Organisations move away from pain far more than moving towards pleasure in many cases. So I think that will drive some of the change. Ali, you've been waiting patiently.
No, I think it was a very good presentation. On the other hand, I totally agree with Train because of the cost element of that. But I think there is much more important thing. World, it's a small place. If you think about the world and your house is a country, if you fix everything in your own country and next door doesn't have heating and he has to burn wood, the smoke is going to come to your house. So I understand that all these strategies that you were doing it is for here and the EU. But it has to be done politically and on a much more wider scale to have an impact. I can understand from what you said, do you remember the Coke bottles, the glass Coke bottles that you used to go buy and give back? But these things will actually put plasters on the wound, but it will not cure the wound until it is a sort of a global sort of a strategy. And the countries that they don't have enough money, and it all goes back to that, then what we will do is that move the manufacturing in the third world countries, and then afterwards we complain why they are polluting the actual world in that sense. So it is nice to actually be aware of it and have a strategy to start doing it in your own house, which is perfect. That's a good starting point. But if you need to have any impact, it has to be a global strategy. And without that, you could make this part okay, and then some disaster happens somewhere else, it will impact yours. So yes, it's education, and most importantly, funding for other countries that they cannot actually afford to do these things. So it may be a shock to the approach of this session, but I just wanted to put that one in picture.
Yeah, it is interesting actually. There's just in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same over in the EU, but in the UK, there's quite a big push now to bring manufacturing back on shore, as it were. And that's driven by a number of different things: Brexit and the problems that created, the pandemic, and demonstrating that actually having a global supply chain creates some challenges. But actually, this push to net zero. So, totally agree with you, Ali. I think it's absolutely critical that we look at this from a global perspective. But actually, local organisations can make a difference by driving some of those changes, because fundamentally that going back to that circular economy, if you are producing stuff really cheaply over in China or India or the Philippines or wherever, and then shipping it over to the EU, you're not going to achieve that net zero. So the organisations can drive it. And coming back to your original point, it reminded me of a story many years ago that I remember hearing, where there was a guy walking down the beach in California, and there's all these starfish on the beach, and he was picking them up and throwing them back in the sea. And someone was saying, "What are you doing that for? It's just life. It's not going to make any difference to the population." The picks the next one up, throws it, and says, "But it made the difference to that one." And I suppose that's the key thing, isn't it? If we can do what we can do, we can hopefully encourage other people to do what we can do as well. Jason,
can I just? Jason, sorry, I know you've been waiting. I just wanted to on that topic. People point fingers a lot. And they say, oh, the government should do more, or China should do more, or it's not worth me doing something because of them. Action, and I couldn't really show it here, but action at a government level and a business level and an NGO level has been taking place for decades. And we need to take our individual action as well, as professionals helping customers, but as individuals in our home. And one of the biggest things we can do is kind of what I'm doing now, is talking to people and keeping the message out there and raising awareness, so that, because once if you think of the COVID impact and the resistance to change, the sustainability impact and the resistance to change will be significant. And we need to start talking about it to bring that down. Jason, I know you've been waiting, sorry.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Chris. I was really interested in your comments on changing thinking around, and change comes from design, because I'm convinced that 8 billion people can't live on the planet with the current lifestyle that we all enjoy in the UK. It's just not going to happen. But equally, we can't consume our way to a green future either. Buying new things because they emit less is stupid thinking. And I think that what I liked about your comments around the design for a circular economy is interesting, because I think that's where industries and where consultants like us can start to influence thinking, because most business models are tired. They don't support the circular economy. So if we start thinking about how we change the service as a product, or the product as a product, then we'll have much more effect on things. I've been having a constant argument with a friend at work who drives a Tesla, and telling me that this is going to save. This is his contribution to saving the world, and having a go at my car because it's diesel. But my car's 55 years old, and I intend to keep using it. So who's really the greener? These arguments need to stop, and we need to start thinking about how we design products and services for circular economies, and move away from a linear model. And I think we need to stop talking about this sort of silliness around the edges. Start thinking about it's a design problem, not a process problem. It's around fixing the design of what we do. I think and that's why I thought it was interesting what you said there.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jason. Stu?
Morning. Great presentation, Chris, and some great stats in there, and some brilliant questions as well, which have been very thought-provoking for me, and Tony talked about his daughter, the Generation Z, and their interest. I think there's other value there for companies in terms of recruitment, and the brightest, most shiniest young people are going to be drawn towards the more sustainable companies, I think. But I just wanted to mention funding and energy, really, because I did a master's degree 20 years ago looking at sustainability in the non-food retail sector, and it just wasn't affordable then. The government grants that they were talking about didn't exist. But as Chris said, I think that's changed over the last little while, and we're also seeing a net sort of reduction in the cost of implementation. So there's less barriers to getting this stuff done now, I think. And as I think Tony mentioned, there's nothing new required here. I think it needs to be re-energized, and we need to, everyone needs to focus on this topic a bit more. And what I'm finding in the area of business I work in is that some sectors are very immature around sustainability, and other sectors are much more mature. So I spent a lot of time in the retail sector, for example. Lots of great sustainable ideas that they implement now, the big businesses in particular. But I'm working in the logistics and data center sector now, and it's very, very immature with regard to all of this stuff. But nevertheless, all of the big digital US brands are sort of suggesting they're 100% renewable, etc. But there's a huge gap between what they're saying and what they're doing, I suppose. So moving some good ideas from one sector to another, I think, is another area that us as change professionals can support our customers with.
Yeah, great points. It's interesting. We're talking about finance there, and I was talking to probably about 3 months ago now, someone it was HSBC, who is leading a program to develop the systems that HSBC are going to be using to monitor the sustainability of their clients, of their customers, and it's moving forward. It's going to be a determination on whether they lend money to organisations, and they haven't. He's building the system. He was saying he's probably about 12 months away from it going live. If you start to think ahead, then you suddenly the funding tap for a lot of organisations that are not taking this seriously is just going to dry up, and it's that pain point that will start to drive some change in major transformation in their thinking. But again, as always, there's a cliff edge. We need to make people aware that cliff edge is coming, and that will hopefully help them to drive some of the change transformation that's required.
I worked for HSBC for about 5 years, about 10 years ago, and we did a poll of our customers whilst I was there, and sustainability was the second most important factor in our customers' lives, and we had several million customers obviously around the world. So it's a huge thing for these businesses, and if you can tune into that and show some tangible results in this area, I think the perception only improves.
Yeah, and it's not just manufacturing; it's all sectors, as you say. I think it was it you, Chris, that was highlighting the stat about professional services and the fact that within a relatively short period of time, 25% of all the electricity consumed globally will be to host in data. So the amount of data that we're pulling together daily, all the images that we have on iPhones, etc., is just building. And within a relatively short period of time, a quarter of all electricity consumed will be to manage data.
Running Zoom meetings.
Yeah, running Zoom meetings, absolutely. Yeah.
Recording them, replaying
them. Slap. But yeah, it is, isn't it? We all need to be thinking about this and the impact that the stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis and the stuff that we take for granted, we need to rethink.
Kim has been very quiet, but I can see her thinking.
This is all new to me.
Really?
Well, I mean, I know conceptually what it is, but I've not been touched by it corporately to any extent. It's kind of gone on around me. But interestingly enough, there's an organization that I spent a lot of my time in financial services, so equipment leasing, and a lot of photocopier office equipment financing. And there's an organization that I considered joining. It's a Finnish company called 3-Step IT. And what they do is it is all about the circular economy, and it's taking what would normally go to landfills, all of the parts and used photocopiers, because they flip them so often, and it's trying to bring those back into the economy in a different way. So it's a pretty interesting company, Chris. That might be one for you to take a look at.
What was the name? Sorry?
3-Step IT.
3-Step.
It's Finnish. Yeah, I know the CEO is a lady by the name of Carmen Ene. She's just done great things with it, but they're really keen on, like, that is their mantra. It is all about the circular economy, and it's much needed in that industry because of all the turnover in the product that they have.
So I have a slide that I didn't talk about, and that's mobile phones. And I'll just summarize. 1.4 billion phones are sold a year. 160 million of them are discarded in the US every year. That's the equivalent of $500 million of material resource.
Yep.
And basically they go into landfill.
Yeah, and so, you take laptops, photocopiers, all of that stuff. It's just a massive, massive market. So I've been silent, not because I haven't enjoyed it. It was well worth getting up and getting dressed to come to this. So it was very well done. But I'm looking forward to getting the deck, because I think it is something, what this has sparked in me is a desire to get a little more knowledgeable on it, because it's not an area I've spent much time on. So thank you for that. And I might pick up and have a separate conversation with you on that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think as we're coming towards the end now, I think the key message, I suppose, to take away from this, and I suppose what the catalyst for this session is to ask questions, is to go and challenge the organisations that you're working with, and challenge them around some of these areas, just to see what response you get, and if they are open to further discussions. And are looking at ways of improving their outputs or whatever, then that will drive future change programs, and ultimately create opportunities for all of us who are operating in the world of change and transformation. And
one thing to add, can I jump in?
Yes, certainly, Chris.
I don't recall. I'm not sure if I mentioned properly EPR, which is extended producer responsibility. And laws are coming into place in all areas, but EPR will be one of them, where the producer will be responsible for the product and materials at the end of life and the environmental impact it has. And so they'll either put that environmental cost into the product cost, or they have to, they'll start looking at the product as a material bank. And they'll own it, or the production company will own the product all the way through to the end of life, and then recoup it and use it again. So, and that will become a legal obligation shortly. And also within the EU, they are setting standards for all sorts of products to say, if you don't meet these environmental standards, you will not be able to sell into the EU. So these two things are going to hit UK companies significantly if they're not prepared.
Good. Thanks, Chris. Thank you very much for putting this presentation together in your time. And really insightful. I'm sure everyone will agree. As I said at the start, Transformation Leaders Hub is all about bringing people who operate in change and transformation together, to have interesting discussions such as the one we've had today. So if you're not involved, if you've not had a look, take a look at it, the transformationleadershub.com. It'd be great to have you involved. And we'll be running, as I said at the start, Chris and I are talking about putting together a more sort of detailed and probably a deeper webinar seminar, probably end of May, June, early June on this subject. So I'll publicise that date when it's when we firmed it up, and if you can make it, it'd be great to get you involved again. But once again, thank you very much for attending, and speak to you very soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tony.